Embrace the hard, folks. That's the motto of the day. That is what Rick Tocchet used to say. And while embrace the hard is more of a meme now amongst Vancouver Canucks fans, it is something that was brought up earlier this morning. Because on the recent edition of Donnie and Dolly, they actually had the man, Rick Tocchet himself, on their show. And there was a very interesting segment of questions and answers presented. Firstly, the opening question from Donnie on the show. Are you doing this interview from the Flyers practice facility? And everybody kind of has a little bit of a chuckle there. But Tocchet ultimately does say that a practice facility not being in Vancouver was somewhat part of the reason that he decided to leave. He does say in the video, it's not that bad in Vancouver. UBC's nice. It's not horrible, he says. But then he says that the Philadelphia Flyers have a state-of-the-art practice facility. They've got an 8,000-foot gym, etc., etc. Okay, we know how important the practice facility is to Rick Tocchet. But what I wanted to dive into was the question and answer that was provided on the notion as to whether or not Rick Tocchet quit on the Vancouver Canucks. This is on a separate clip on the Donnie and Dolly Twitter account. The full video interview is going to be in the description. It's on YouTube for your listening pleasure. Obviously, you can just watch that interview. You don't necessarily need to watch me talking about it. But I wanted to dive into some of these comments here, courtesy of the folks on CanucksDaily.com who transcribed what it was that Tocchet ended up saying. Dolly ends up asking the question, a lot of fans understand why you left, but saying embrace the hard, meet pressure with pressure, and they think that you quit on the Canucks. What are your comments about that? What do you think about those who say that? Tocchet says, hey, I understand it. I can see where they're coming from. Listen, I can explain to them how I'm not a quitter, but I understand where they're coming from. Sometimes in life you have decisions you got to make, and you hit the crossroads and you have to go left or right, and sometimes you make the right decisions, sometimes you don't, but you have to go with your conviction. It wasn't a quit thing, it was just something I felt it was for me to evolve. And I understand that this was the time. To his credit, Tocchet does say, hey, he understands, passionate fan base, hockey-crazed media market, and then he says that if you won the Stanley Cup, Vancouver would be one of the most crazy, intense, and fantastic experiences to be a part of. He doesn't say that verbatim, but that's just kind of the idea that he presents, Talked about how it was crazy when the Canucks even made it to the second round, and he couldn't believe what he was seeing with the buzz in the city and the fans. So imagine winning a cup there. But anyways, Tocchet does speak out about him leaving, more so as a personal decision in an area where he felt like it was time. And at that point, you can't really blame the guy for anything if it was in his heart of hearts to go back and he wasn't willing to stay in Vancouver for all the reason that we had been hearing over the past few weeks in the media. There's uncertainty with Quinn Hughes, there is a lack of a practice facility, he does want to stick around with his family. That makes a lot of sense, but it is kind of interesting that we are going down this path, because for quite some time throughout this year, we thought that the Vancouver Canucks would exercise their right to keep Tocchet if he wasn't intent on signing a contract extension. We thought that they would be cutthroat and they would hold everything up to him and say, yeah, no, you got this clause in your contract. Even if you don't want to sign with us, you have to coach for us if we choose. But after all the media circus stuff came out with the Philadelphia Flyers firing Tortorella and Tocchet being the main candidate there, we saw the rumors kind of fade away, and then the Canucks were like, yeah, no, we're not going to hold him back. If he wants to leave, then we're going to let him leave. He can walk away. The head coach of the Vancouver Canucks walking away and going over to Philadelphia. Will this be Paul Maurice 2.0? Will Tocchet use all his powers of will to bring this Flyers team to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals and eventually win the Cup? Maybe even making a third Stanley Cup final? Okay, we gotta calm our horses here. The Flyers are a little bit further back than the Florida Panthers were when Paul Maurice took over. I wanted to dive into one more extra thought here by Rick Tocchet. Vancouver Canucks News Summaries did the summary of Tocchet's interview, and on top of all the other conversations that we had spoken about already, why he left, and there are some other things that you can read about with Adam Foote, I wanted to talk about Tocchet's response to the Miller PD thing. He says that it was Tocchet's responsibility to make it work, and they tried. They probably could have done some different things. Toc mentions getting to it earlier, like a training camp. A lot of people tried to make their relationship work. And there's a lot of mental aspects to the game now. Outside noise, and they're dealing with players with a lot of stuff on their plate. This is compared to when he played, where things were a little bit simpler. So for Pettersson and Miller, it does seem like we are never going to get a full, detailed breakdown as to what happened until somebody retires and writes their book one day. This is just going to be secondhand, secondary, never confirmed info that we're just going to have to keep on bouncing around until that full story gets uncovered. But Tocchet speaking out about it, saying, yeah, part of it is his fault. In fact, it is his fault because he could have done more, or the team around them could have done more. It was very heavily reported that Tocchet was weighed down by the Pettersson and Miller conflict. Him and Hughes and everybody else that tried to force it to work, but it just never did. Super unfortunate for the Vancouver Canucks to have two top-tier superstars that were not able to get along to that capacity, and to have one of them hurt during the summer, so he wasn't able to train to the capacity that he probably should have been able to. But I think there was another interview somewhere. I'm not too sure where I saw this, but I'm pretty sure I heard it somewhere that Tocchet did say that he felt like Pettersson would have a bounce-back year. So that, of course, is a positive sign, and we want to see all the good things happening to Elias Pettersson in 2025, 2026. It's not guaranteed, but of course it would be ideal. So if Tocchet's believing it, if the fans are believing it, then all we got to do is hope that Pettersson executes it, because if he can bounce back from everything that happened in 23-24, it might just be the uniting force that brings Vancouver Canucks fans all the way back here. So I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Rick Tocchet speaking out on Donnie and Dolly. There were a bunch of other conversations that were held on the show I didn't really have that much interest in, honestly. I didn't really care too much about Tocchet speaking out about Foote, but he does have some good things to say about him. You can read and react to that in your own time if you so please, but for now, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Tocchet speaking out on him being a quitter, and speaking out about why he ended up leaving Vancouver. Miller, Pettersson, all these things have been discussed in today's Donnie and Dolly, and I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this Vrishashroll 99, and bye.